Welcome to Business Agility Now, the podcast powered by Scaled Agile. I'm your host, Adam Mattis. This is the place to get advice, stories, and perspectives to help you work differently and build the future. Thanks for listening and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we're hanging out today with some celebrities in the SAFe community. I like to kind of throw that out there and see if I can get some awkward smiles, and I did on Steve, so it was a win. But we're hanging out with Mikael Broomé and Dr. Steve Mayner to talk about leadership in SAFe, management in SAFe specifically. But before we get into that, let's figure out who these folks are that we're speaking to. Mikael, it's good to see you. I think it's been since what, Berlin?
Since Berlin, you're right, Adam. So it's great to be here. And I'm Mikael Broomé from Think Flow, based in Sweden, up in the Nordics. And I've been in this business for like 25 years, helping organizations to improve. For the last 15 years or so, it has been with a clear agile focus. So that's where I try to make a difference.
So, Mikael, when you got into this work, I mean, obviously you said you've been focused with agility for a period now. I mean, where did you really start, though? Like, what was your first consulting gig?
If we take it from 2007, when I kind of met Agile for the first time, it was a Scrum Master role. So, taking over a team that had issues and they were struggling to deliver. So that's where I started, and then I have been Scrum Mastering for a number of years, and then at some point I got to manage several teams, and also had a chance to work as a functional manager for some years. So I've had some different roles.
What sectors have been most interesting to you? Like what markets, what market segments?
Yeah, so I mean, having an engineering background, I think I often end up in engineering organizations. So it can be medtech companies or automotive or any kind of sector where they develop cyber physical systems of some sort. That's often where I find myself. But I've been supporting in banking and finance as well. So it's different.
I'm sure over the last 16 years, when you think about the evolution of cyber physical, I mean, from 2007 to now, or automotive or any of those sectors, I mean, it's been interesting, right? I mean, the things, maybe sometimes I think it's more interesting than it has been, because when I was talking to Harry a few weeks ago and he said, 25 years ago, I was starting to work on 5th gen fighters. I'm like, dude, there's no way. 25 years ago, but I mean, that's the thing, right? So in those spaces, they've typically had such a long tail where I think the evolution that we see in the market is probably a lot more dramatic than what you've seen when you're actually building the stuff, right? Because the evolution for building those cyber physical systems, maybe the software and like the, I guess like the surface layers are maybe shifting more frequently, but what are you seeing like in the hardware space itself? I mean, have you seen a lot of really cool evolutions during your time?
Yeah, I mean, what I've seen that is from the start, it was very, agility and increasing the speed was something primarily for the software folks. But if you have a cyber physical product, obviously you have to make sure that you get the hardware parts out in the same pace. And I think that's where I've seen organizations improving over the last decade, that they find ways to apply it for hardware as well, to make sure that the entire product development is moving forward in a good pace.
I think the coolest thing I've seen in that space is I was touring a race shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, a NASCAR race shop, and they actually have the ability to 3D print engine blocks. So when they want to start tweaking different things and running different experiments, they don't have to go wait for somebody to cast a mold, and they don't have to go out there and like machine and tweak. They just print the darn thing, and they can print an engine block in 40 hours. And it's insane. I mean, just what they're able to do now. We talk about cyber physical, we talk about hardware, but like even something like old school manufacturing, right? I mean, there's so many cool things we can do there now. And I think the way that we've all become impassioned to think and look at the world is leading that way, right? I mean, the way that you would think to manufacture and engineer an engine block in, 5-year horizons historically is now something you can just sit in a race shop and say, well, wouldn't it be cool if, or what do you think would happen if we changed like fuel channeling in this way? And you just do it, right? That's so cool. At any rate, I don't want to get too far down that path. I don't know, I think I'm high on race gas right now. I can almost smell it coming from my garage. But Dr. Steve, what have you been up to lately? I mean, things have been pretty slow paced here at Scaled Agile the last few months, so I'm sure you've had plenty of time to relax.
Oh yeah, I just it's 5 o'clock Margaritaville all the time. Yeah, not exactly, but we'll save a lot of what's under the hood since we're on a race theme for our upcoming summit in DC, because that has been our focus on our team for some months now. So we won't spoil what's going on, but we're pretty excited about it.
And pretty busy, right? I mean, the cool thing is, like, I look at Mikael as a member of the SPCT community, and I know I caught up on the fellows call from Friday. I mean, we talk about moving at the speed of innovation as kind of like a buzz thing for, I don't know, Mikael, since as long as you've been doing Scrum since 2007, right? We've been saying that. But I feel like in the last 9 months, the speed of innovation's gotten a whole heck of a lot faster.
Yeah, and no small tribute to what the manic focus on AI has done since November of 22, when ChatGPT burst on the scene for most mortal human beings that weren't deep into that world. I know that was true for us. It was quite an event, and of course we've all seen what's transpired since then. So I think it just has created this very fast cycle focused on that technology, but there's side effect of it prompting organizations to think more aggressively, think more more intently on how innovation is disrupting entire markets, bringing capabilities that, like you mentioned, it's 3D printing. That's not AI, but it's a new capability that hadn't existed for most of our human history. And now we have an ability to do something we've never done before. And, AI is doing the same thing. And every market is different. How do those capabilities look when you apply to whatever industry that you are in? So, this time that I think we've all been around long enough to remember a time in business where, those were very long innovation cycles, and change was this infrequent periodic thing that interrupted a nice equilibrium. It came, we did whatever the change was, and then we looked forward to the calm waters once again, until the next big change came around. And now we look around, and that world's probably never coming back, not in our lifetimes, because the pace of change is and innovation and new breakthroughs that are cause us to rethink everything. That's the world we're in, and to our topic of the day, certainly creates a new quandary, a new challenge for those who are responsible for leading and managing people through those changes.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it, Steve. I mean, if you're the kind of person that kind of really enjoyed the ebbs and flows, right? I mean, I think we're out of that, right? The ebbs are kind of gone. And what we need to get really good at now is being resilient and is being deliberate in what we focus on. Because I think when we move so fast, it's so easy to be tempted to focus on so many things because there's so many things bubbling up every day. So that management role, it takes on a different responsibility. And I think as we dive into this, we've always talked about the role of leadership in a safe context because, one of the goals of safe is to be able to manage rapid change, to be able to give you mechanisms to address rapidly changing market conditions. But we've never had a specific call out that said, this is what managers do day to day, right? I mean, we have a lot of roles up there, and some roles are full time, and other roles are maybe hats that you wear. And we speak a lot about the different things that we would expect managers and positional leaders to do: manage change impact, lead by example. But we never got into having an icon on the big picture, and we never got into having a framework article that talks about the context of that role. And I think, well, that's what we're here to talk about today. So, Mikael, can you tell us a little bit about why this topic is so important to you? Like, what about this topic gets you excited?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, because I mean the fact is that I've invested like the last 18 months a lot of that time into really trying to understand this better. That has now resulted in this article, and I think there are many reasons for me to have been doing that. I mean, in all the safe transformations that I've been involved in, there have been struggles for the managers. I often meet people that they suddenly they have their staff moving into teams and arts, and those people they get a lot of guidance. They get the trainings and they get support from coaches, and they are quite well equipped to take on that mindset shift that they are supposed to do. But for the managers, it's often different. They are left to somehow figure that out themselves. And sometimes I meet people that feel that, well, am I really needed anymore? How can I get use of my experience and competence? That's not very clear to them. And also people that may feel that it doesn't change for them, so they may continue in the same path that they have been doing previously. And I guess in both situations, it's unfortunate, because it will generate friction, and it will have downsides for everyone actually involved. And at some point, I realized that, well, I see these symptoms all over every time, and it's so unfortunate. It really touches me that they are put in that awkward situation. So, and on the other hand, I also have observed quite a lot of situations where it works. So I started to try to analyze that, to see, okay, why did it work in that situation? What was the pattern that was different? So, and pulling all those ideas together, I realized that there is probably a way to provide some good help here for those people. So that's where I got started.
So I guess I want to take responsibility too on behalf of the consulting sector, and I'll do this because I mean I've been guilty of it. To the point that you've made, Mikael, consultants haven't helped. I can't count how many times I've heard people say things like the frozen middle, referring to middle management, to people in those roles. And it comes down to, I think, a lack of understanding. And I often go back and I quote this tagline from an old MTV show called True Life. And their tagline was, "You think you know, you have no, but you have no idea." And I think a lot of people look at middle management, having never been in those roles, and they say, well, it's you. You're the problem. If you would just do whatever, if you would just think differently, if you would just behave different, then all of this would be easy. But without ever having been in those roles and really understanding that you're the buffer between the individual contributors doing a lot of the work and the very different drivers of those who are responsible for strategy and executing board, directives and imperatives, that's a hard place to be, because you're being asked to do multiple different things that are sometimes in conflict, right? And then you also have the problem of maybe sometimes the incentive structure of your boss is different from the way that we're trying to work. So you're stuck in this really awkward space where you're trying to do right for all of these people. And I think unfairly, we've, as an industry, right, have said for a lot of years the frozen middle. And we've said things that are maybe not complimentary of those people who have a very difficult role. From a framework perspective, why now? Why now have we decided to go down this path and tap Mikael to start bringing in some of this IP?
Well, a lot of that credit goes to Mikael for coming to us and saying, "Look, I've got a real passion for this, and it's a real challenge, and I want to devote my time and energy and creativity into bringing this guidance into life for the community. As you all know, we don't write all the guidance inside of our team as employees of Scaled Agile. We want to bring the best thinking from our community, and where it has merit, where it's meeting a real need, and where people are willing to devote the time and energy and effort, which Mikael, I think, now has a better appreciation for what that looks like to get it out the door. We want to take advantage of it. So I think we've all seen it. It's like anything else. You've got lots of different fronts that you can focus in on. If Mikael had not come forward and it had been in our backlog, would it have come out now? I'm not so sure, because we've got lots of these kinds of inputs that come from the community in terms of, hey, can we have some guidance over here on this topic or that topic? But the phenomenon is very real, and I think it's even more pronounced than what you described there, Adam. Because what I've seen is the managers that we're talking about often have the least amount of control over the change being initiated to begin with, but they have the greatest amount to lose if they don't execute their piece of the responsibility, the way the rest of the organization, the executives in the organization are expecting, with very little empathy for their own struggles that such a change brings to them. They're just expected, hey, we've made this decision to go in this direction. We need to make sure that your teams are, fully aligned and ready to go. And by the way, you need to change too. Good luck, right? and then, think about, I'm very much like Mikael. It causes a reaction when I think about the topic, because I see people's faces. I see names. I see people that I have spent hours in one-on-ones in offices watching the struggle and hearing the struggle. So I was very, very excited and very motivated when the opportunity came along to pair with Mikael on this and get this out and let all those folks that have this type of struggle. I used to do my job this way. This is how I saw myself bringing value to the organization. And now you've radically changed what I thought my job was. And finally, I think we have an opportunity to reach a hand out and say, we hear you, we understand. And, you are valued. You do something very important, not just important, but absolutely critical, because in the dual operating system, nobody else has this job. And yet we're in the people business. And so if somebody is not taking care of the people, then it doesn't matter how clever all of our other guidance is, it's not going to work. So that's the message we hope. I think that's what that's the heart I heard from Mikael. It very much matched my own. And that's why I've just thoroughly enjoyed this journey together.
PIplanning.io. If you know, you know. If you don't know, well, go check out YouTube. But you'll have that little jingle in your head the rest of the day. You're welcome. Today's episode is powered by PIplanning.io, the go-to solution for your PI planning needs. Struggling with remote planning sessions? PIplanning.io brings your team together wherever they are. It's user-friendly, incredibly effective, and makes complex planning a breeze by providing a real-time collaborative environment and seamlessly syncing planning results back to your ALM of choice. If you've ever had to do this sync manually like I have, you know how powerful this feature is and how much time it saves you. Elevate your Agile game with PIplanning.io. Plan smarter, deliver faster. Check it out today at PIplanning.io. Now back to the show. So by the time that this podcast airs, the article will be out. The webinar that you referenced will be released. So I think it's okay, Mikael, if we start talking a little bit about, at a high level, what is included in the guidance? What is the TLDR of this article that's coming forth?
Yeah, starting with this kind of motivation that we have been touching on, and realizing that there is a need here for we need to understand what the difference is for this role moving into the new context. I mean, what happens in that shift is that as a manager, you have a position in the hierarchical part of the dual operating system. Your staff, however, is moving into the network half. And some of the responsibilities that you used to have, like prioritizing features and managing the backlog and affecting the product, is moving into that network side, as well as other responsibilities like making sure that the team is focused and have a good atmosphere and well-being as a team, and a smooth way of working and improving. So several responsibilities are moving from you to somebody else. So I think that's one part to understand. But there are several very important responsibilities that stay with you as people manager. And one of the differences is that you may have been wearing many hats. So you have been supposed to be good at managing people as well as being the expert on the product and technical expert and so on, many hats. And now we're moving into a situation where you can focus on one hat to make that really good, and that's to make sure that you care for people in this context and provide them with good conditions to contribute to the new system.
So with that, Mikael, do you think it kind of shifts the selection criteria for who would want to become our manager or who would want to put in that role? Because I think, you hit it right on the head. I mean, it's an old Taylorism kind of model that says, the one who has done all of the work and who has the expertise should lead the people. But in the age that we're in now, I mean, that's impossible. If you've been out of engineering, I mean, the last time I wrote any meaningful code was 2009. I have no idea what's going on anymore. Right. But I think the reality is, if you've been out of the game for 6 months, you have no idea what's going on anymore. And that's got to be okay. And I think for a lot of folks who are put in those roles, they need to ask themselves, is this the role that I want? Is this people development role what I want?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to let go of the expertise and the knowledge and always being on the bleeding edge of new tech? I think with clearer guidance comes the ability for people to say, yes, this is absolutely what I want to do because I care for people and I care for our system, or I want to maintain all of the details. And I always go back to this woman. I remember her name was Priya. She worked at FedEx, and she tells this story openly, so it's totally okay to talk about. And her struggle as an engineering manager was that she had a photographic memory. She has a photographic memory, and she ended up leading the team who was responsible for the code that she wrote by herself for a lot of years. So when the team would say, hey, I think this thing, she would say, no, because on line whatever, there's this condition that says this, that calls this thing and this. She couldn't get out of it. She physically could not get out of the code. And she was really impassioned about being a people leader. But it wasn't until we moved her to a space where she could no longer see the code in her head that she excelled as being a people leader. So I think those are some of the challenges, especially with technical roles, that we need to think about.
Yeah. And that resonates very well with my experience, because when I meet managers regularly, I mean, some of them, they decided to become manager because they love the product. So their passion is with the product, and for some others it may be more in the progress area. So I mean, depending on where your passion is, there are different roles that are a good fit for you. So this is actually a fork in the road, where you have to make a conscious decision. For many, they are in this role because they are passionate about people. And I mean, congratulations! This is you will get even better circumstances to act in this role, and you can continue to be a people manager. But for others, it's probably better to take on a role as an architect or as RTE or product manager. There are so many options in this new system.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of high impact individual contributor roles. What I've seen in a lot of organizations is that they've built parallel paths in people management as well as individual contributor that go all the way up to that first rung of the executive ladder. So you could be an individual contributor that has the same pay, benefits, parking space is that first rung executive. And then where it kind of splits is, well, at some point as an executive, your scope of impact and influence and responsibility, it's just a product of being the manager of people and a manager of the system to which there just is no individual contributor component. So I think what's important is as we develop these systems and as we promote this new way of considering and approaching management, we have to make sure that there's a dual career track for people to continue growing as individuals. Because I think a lot of the times when people jump into management, it's because that's the only way to advance. And we don't want that to be the motivator, right? We don't want you to be a manager because, well, that's just the next thing for you to do. So we've got to build a system that supports that paradigm. And Steve, I'm really curious, from your seat on the bus, I look at you as a player coach, right? Because you're hyper engaged in like the development of IP and being a team member, but you're also the people manager of the framework team. You're also the person who, with Audrey basically spearheaded the leading by example, leading change curriculum, and you've got a big part in this IP. So from your position of having been a people manager in the old system, a people manager in the new system, plus a player coach, plus leading a lot of the thought leadership in new ways of approaching people, what do you think about where we landed? What are some of the things that get you the most excited?
The challenge, the opportunity, and the challenge of leading people. You and I have a common background of having the early seeds of that experience being planted in the military, and so that began my journey of what does it look like, from squad size to large groups, and got a lot of really good training and a lot of really good examples in the people that mentored me, and I got to take that then into the private sector and learn a lot. And just really has been, a personal passion of mine, because at the end of the day, the people who are in a position of management or leadership have such an ability to either positively or negatively impact the people that they lead, the people around them. And it's not just about those people. Those people have families to go home to, and it can carry over into that if people live in a very crummy environment at work. And I know, because I've been on the receiving end of that, like all of us have. And so, coming into this present opportunity, and you're right, I do have that privilege of serving our team in the people management role. For me, it has been a great opportunity to not just take ideas and write about them and build training around it, or in this case collaborate with Mikael on the topic, but it's a great check. I mean, I found myself so many times as we were writing this to pause and reflect and just think, I wonder if the team would say I'm doing this well, so, I think it's a fantastic, it's a fantastic opportunity to help everybody that's in a similar situation. And it's also true that, while a lot of the hats that you did previously wear might be now taken on by a product manager or by an RTE or by an architect. A lot of people that are people managers like me also have other duties and responsibilities as well. Maybe not as many as they had before, but they still have, a lot of things they have to devote their time to. I think what the message that Mikael has written about, and certainly we're going to promote to our community, is that while that may be true, it does hopefully help people see the positive side of this change. And while there may be a time of a feeling of loss or grief of, wow, I really enjoyed doing that, but now I'm told I can't do that anymore. Right? That's somebody else's job. But if the person is what I call a people, and there's that part of them that that gets great internal satisfaction from helping people find their place, helping them grow, helping find the right talent to bring to the company so that the company can succeed. You're going to have more time if done well, right? You're going to have more time to focus on that part of your job that you get so much satisfaction from. And think about that as a good thing, right? You have hopefully more time to really spend in individual conversations. Just because they're working on an agile team or on an art doesn't mean you can't talk to them anymore. In fact, that's one of the parts of our guidance. You need to stay engaged. You're not going to know where somebody's needs for growth and development are if you interpret this as a arm's length shift. It's not the case, and that's not what we recommend. You simply have to respect the swim lanes that other people now have and try not to undercut them, respect them, let them do their part of the job, and you can focus more time on doing your part of the job. But yeah, it was there were some of the sections we would go into and like, that was a great reminder because I do still work on a number of different things, both in our guidance, in our framework, as well as the leadership role in the company and the various meetings and obligations that has. It does have me still pulled in different directions, and it's so easy to forget. I have a very important job, and that's the care. Simon Sinek is one of my heroes, and he talks about caring for the people in your charge, and it was a great reminder, even as we were working on it, that I have to keep that in front of me at all times, even when it gets busy.
Reflection and relentless improvement is kind of a big thing in our world. So, Mikael, to a manager that is for the first time being asked to decentralize some things that had historically been, really important to them, what are some tips that you would offer to help create safety within yourself? Because you're the only one that can do it, right? You're the only one that can make it okay to let go. What are some tips that you might offer?
Yeah, I think it's about trusting the new leaders that we have now, like Scrum Masters and
not leaders because they lead people, but leaders because they're responsible for new things, new decisions, new outcomes. It's an important distinction because a lot of times people hear leader and they think people manager, but that's not the case.
Right. We have several leaders now in the new system when we implement SAFe. So I mean, for a single team, we have the Scrum Master and the PO, right? And they are like a leadership duo. They have a very important job to make sure that the team is focused. So I mean, to really make sure as a manager that you understand what those other roles are about, so that you can have a good conversation with them on what they would like from you, how you can help them to grow in their role. I think that's a good way to start, because I mean, by showing trust in them, they will probably do the best they can to develop in that role and grow. And there will probably be things along that path where you can be of help as a manager, because you may have experience from dealing with conflicts and dealing with sensitive situations, and suddenly some of those can be dealt with within the team, assisted by the Scrum Master. And sometimes the Scrum Master is experienced and has a strong ability to deal with that. And sometimes, I mean, everyone will sometimes be a Scrum Master for the first time. So sometimes there is a need for more support to them, and that's where you can make a difference as a people manager.
So I know from my time in the field, one of the things that I always pushed managers to do in this new way of thinking, working, and approaching people is to go take. I mean, what we're really doing is moving from a position of directing work to coaching. And those skills don't come by reading a book. So one of the things I would always push folks to do is to go take, I mean, at the time it was the Lisa Atkins coaching boot camp. All right. You've got to go learn those skills. You've got to have the opportunity to practice those skills before you can ever exercise those skills. Because if you just, kind of read the guidance, but then don't do the work to develop those skills, I mean, just like anything else, you can't read a book and then all of a sudden be an expert. So if I had to offer a tip, it would be to take the time and do the hard work. And it is hard work. I know for me personally, I mean, um, when you start coaching and when you seek to coach others, you first have to accept a lot of yourself. And that's not an easy thing to do. So, to best position yourself to help others, you need to first help yourself by getting that guidance and that coaching and that development to learn coaching skills. And again, that was something that I always offered to folks as a good development step. Cool. So to kind of wrap this up and bring it home, I mean, we do have the webinar coming up, and by the time this goes out, the article and the webinar will all be ready for consumption, so they'll be linked in the show notes. But to just kind of tie a neat bow on things, I mean, Steve, what would you like to leave people with? I mean, what would you say is the most profound learning you have through this experience? And Mikael, you get the benefit of knowing this question's coming to you, so you can think about it. Um, but Steve, so what do you think? I mean, self-reflection, a lot of reflection on your career and your own development. What was your biggest aha from this experience with Mikael?
Well, the first thing that I would, that immediately jumps to my mind is, sometimes on topics like this that come to us on the framework team, there's always, maybe a small group, even a one or two individuals that come to us with a topic. They're very passionate about it, but then we wonder, okay, how much of the community is really going to care about this? This may be really important to a small segment, but as you know, we're reaching, literally tens of thousands of people, and it's a consideration. This one, as we work together, and as I talked about it inside of our team, as reflected on experiences I've had in the past, that this all kind of brought back up in my memory, and even as we talked about it across the company in various meetings where we demo things or just talk about, hey, this is new guidance that's about to come out. Universally, the reaction was, oh my gosh, it's about time, right? Same thing as we started getting into social media and looking at the responses as we shared this, that sentiment kept coming up over again. Finally, we so needed. So this one is one that we have high confidence is going to strike a nerve. That okay, I'm living this, or I'm working with someone that's living this, or I have lived this in the past, and I remember all of this. And so the potential of really bringing good into the world by providing something that says, hey, you're not crazy. You're not alone. You're not the only one who's felt this way. It is a natural consequence of a shift in our ways of working from a very, command and control, top down, manager has to have all the answers, direct all the work, to a different way of working, that's much more, I mean, it's a good thing, right? More people are empowered. More people can be self-actualized by bringing more of themselves and contributing and self-directing. And the dynamics of powerful, high-performing teams, those are all good things. But they also have this secondary effect of the change that it brings to people who are used to working one way and are now working a different way. And sometimes, in fact, I would say the higher in the organization you go, the less likely it is that the organization is going to take the time to pause and say, how's that affecting you? Are you doing okay with that? Right? Because the higher you are, you're just kind of expected to, have all the answers on experience. You just, we'll focus on, that attention somewhere else. It's not always true, right? And these are very real people. Some of the most powerful conversations I've had where people were really struggling with this change were VPs of software development, right? In fact, my Walter talk is a real story. Names have been changed, but it's a real story about a journey I went through with a VP of software engineering for a company that kind of went through this whole story arc of struggle and getting to the other side of that. So that's the thing that really is super exciting for me. That I hope that what we will see as this gets out and we can do more webinars and other talks and have conversations with our community around it. I hope it evokes a conversation and helps everybody either know if you're going through this, it's okay. There's some hopefully some goodness in here that will help point you in the right direction to find there's a positive side to this if you just can sort of go through that emotional journey and find your way to that, grab onto that. And for people who haven't approached it yet, as that change comes to them, hopefully they will be able to remember, I remember I listened to this podcast and there was this article in SAFE that talked about this, and maybe that, that change curve for them might be a little less dramatic if they can get to this guidance before they have to navigate that and, go through that in a little more healthy fashion. And I think Mikael and I both just love that.
Mikael, what about you?
Yeah. So, through this work, we have been having a lot of meetings, Steve, discussing this and refining. And as we have been doing that, my understanding of this has matured. It has been very helpful for me because in parallel with this work, I've been coaching managers. So in between our meetings, I've been provided with new insights, and that has been very helpful for me and hopefully for my clients as well. And I think one of the things that I've been reminded about is that there are easily several conflicts that can emerge in this area. So one of my stories that is also very real is about an individual that understands that, well, now I'm supposed to take a step back. I'm supposed to let these other leaders be in charge, and I will not have the same insights into details. But I'm somehow still held responsible. My managers, they still expect me to be very updated on the details, especially when there are escalations, when things go sideways. I'm pulled into meetings where I'm supposed to be very updated on the details. And I feel so sorry for those managers that are put in that awkward situation. So what I hope that this guidance will provide is an ability to more easily have conversations in the organizations where we have not only the managers, but also the managers of the managers being involved, and probably also HR to some extent to understand what this change is about. You brought that up earlier, Adam, that in some situations, in some organizations, it may be smoother because there are these alternative career paths. You can keep your salary and still and move into the network side. That's not always the case. So I think this will hopefully make it easier for organizations, including to include HR in the dialogue and make sure that we have a system that is set up to make this work. So that's what I hope.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm excited for this IP. It's something that I think a lot of us have spoken about over the years, and it's going to be great to see it codified. So I'm really excited. I want to thank you both for making the time today. And for those of you listening, by the time you listen to this, you'll be able to access the launch webinar as well as the article in the show notes below with future IP to come. So, gentlemen, Dr. Steve, Mikael, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Mikael.
Yeah, thanks.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you like what you hear, please refer us to your friends and colleagues and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Adam Mattis. See you next time.